is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Mick Shots.
Streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here are Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
And it's time for another edition of Mick Shots on day 64 now. It all started back on March 11th, and here we are on May 14th. And much of this NFL season has passed us by. Mickey Spagnola and Everson Walls, this is day 64 of the United States portion of the pandemic. And we are just over 64 days away. In fact, I counted up to, I think it's 68 days away from when the Cowboys will be departing for training camp.
You say that, Bill, with a lot of confidence that we'll be departing.
Yeah, we might have to talk to that California governor in the meantime, but that's when the Cowboys should be departing for training camp. I think it's on like a Tuesday, July 21st, since they're going to be playing in the Hall of Fame game.
Or we could be departing for Frisco.
That's exactly right. We could be departing down the Nike Star Walk at the Star in Frisco to go. Well, they won't be practicing at that point, but hopefully we might be able to actually interview some Cowboys players one-on-one in person by July 21st. But we get ahead of ourselves. There's still lots to talk about on this edition of Mick Shots.
So, Bill, what have you been doing?
Well, I've been working away here in my home office here at CBS 11 Sports Studios here and Dallas Cowboys television studios here. I need to paint my room blue. It's a red room. I need to paint it blue. Get started on that shortly.
Well,
how about you, Everson?
I have been watching Dr. Fauci. That's what I've been doing. I want to make sure. I don't know. I don't know if I weigh between Bill's optimism or Dr. Fauci's facts of science. So I don't know. I'm trying to weigh that out. You know, you got a lot of weight on your end, Bill. But you know, Fauci is, you know, he's kind of smart. So I'm trying to weigh it out and see which way I'm going to go for this fall. We'll see. Well, I don't want to be the guy. I'm going to blame it on Fauci. How about that?
Yeah. Well, I think Fauci doesn't want to be the guy. So I try not listening to Dr. Fauci as much as I can.
You just don't want to deal with reality, right?
Yes,
that's
right.
What it is. Hey, we got us a schedule a week ago, and by golly, we're going to play that schedule. You know it?
Yes, absolutely. And you know what, you guys, when I find myself writing about it or talking about it, I always seem to be prefacing with, well, we hope. It's like we're talking about it like it's all going to happen, and, you know, the season opener is going to be on that day. And it's like, well, maybe, you know, September 13th, we hope we're going to be in L.A. for a game. We hope there'll be 60,000 people in the new stadium, but that part we don't know, and we're still, 3-4 months away. So there's time, but, you know, when you hear baseball talking about starting up with no fans or 25% in the stadium, same thing with basketball and hockey, you're sitting there going, well, they don't have time. The NFL has time. But again, they haven't even opened up the facilities yet, and the Cowboys and all the other teams continue their off-season streaming lessons. Everson, could you imagine sitting at home and trying to learn the playbook, talking as we are right now?
Man, that would be so weird. If you recall, back in the day, we had computer papers, right? We didn't have iPads and all of that. We had the computer paper, and we had the big book, and it looked like it was about 2 inches thick of all types of formations. So you would have heard a bunch of page turning in regards to what we were trying to learn that particular day, what kind of formations we had to deal with. Now the guys just have iPads. They can just swipe and do their thing. I think it's a lot more advantageous for them now. As a matter of fact, I would love to be a guy learning from home right now if that was the only choice that I had.
So you had those big, wide sheets of perforated IBM paper?
And it was in a big green cardboard cover, so to speak. So the papers, yes, they were all part of that binder, that big, ugly green binder that we had. And guys, that was what you call innovative at that time, because the Cowboys were ahead of the game as far as everyone was concerned. Our workouts, our schedules, everything was typed up on computer paper. So we're even talking, beta? Am I talking the beta age? We're going back that far.
It might go back farther than that. But you know what? When I did an interview with Cliff Harris, he took me into his huge closet, and he's got all those stacks of game plans in his closet still. And it was
why
exactly
would someone keep that mess?
Exactly
I'm sorry,
what you were talking about. And he even opened them up, and he had his notes on each page, what he was supposed to remember, right? And then the other thing, I don't know how many of those Peyton places you guys have watched that aired during the season. Well, I just watched the one on the draft, and he was interviewing Gil Brandt, and Gil was actually had video of the big old computers they were using. They were these big wall things. I mean, they looked like a refrigerator, and that's where they were charting everything. Peyton, I mean, it was really interesting stuff. But
and
yeah,
now you can just put all of that on a freaking smartphone.
Yeah,
just think
right?
about that.
It's amazing. Or an iPad like Bill, right?
Yeah, that's right. Hey, so Everson, if you were a player now, let's go back and say you are 26-year-old Everson Walls. You're playing today, okay, and you've got what's going on right now. What would you be doing to get ready for the season here, May 14th? Still 68 days away from the plane departing for California in the current circumstances we have.
Well, let me see. If I'm 26 years old and it's in today's time, I would probably have about 57 interceptions already, considering how much they throw the ball. Hold on, let me get there. Wait, I'm trying to get there. Okay, so I'm probably in my third contract. Probably riches, I don't know what. I probably got a big old house looking like Troy Aikman's house or something like that. And I would probably be doing what I did even back then. I hated working out at the campus. I just did. I never did like coming to the old or the new campus that was in Valley Ranch at the time, new being in air quotes.
You didn't like those outdoor weight rooms?
Did not like any of that. As a matter of fact, I recall my first off season with the Cowboys. I had all this pressure on me. I was a free agent. I had 12 workouts out of a possible 64 or some crap like that. So I was never much, Bill, for going to the facility anyway. But what I did used to do, I thought was very innovative just for myself. What really helped me was I would do shadow coverage. Everything was about shadow coverage. I didn't need a wide receiver out there. I started on the 10-yard line, and I would do back pedals and cover imaginary receivers and imaginary routes up and down the field until I was just bone tired. So everything about me was trying to get myself into rhythm of playing man-to-man defense. Zone, of course, you don't have to study for zone, especially when you're a cornerback. But as a top-notch cornerback at that time, shadow coverage was something that I had always implemented into my workouts, and that would work perfectly for coronavirus at this point. What do you think?
So those full team workouts, those OTAs that we normally have starting this time of the year, those are overrated, you think? Yeah,
I think they're a little bit overrated, especially when you're just doing walkthroughs and things of that nature. To me, the most fun and the most important part of a cornerback's practice, which you can never do over and over again, is to play one-on-one coverage. To me, that gets a cornerback or a defensive back ready for any type of challenge that he's going to have for his entire career. You can worry about lifting weights all you want. You can worry about running a 40-yard dash. You can worry about all of that. But when it comes down to it, you have to cover your man no matter how slow you are or how fast he is. And nothing's going to get you ready for playing one-on-one than a whole bunch of one-on-one reps. That's just the way I've always taught it and the way I always played it.
Or shadow boxing, right?
Shadow boxing. That's all it is, Spags. That's a shadow coverage, shadow boxing.
You know what? That sounds like my one-man backyard wiffle ball games that I would simulate.
Hey, I might patent that, man. You patent the wiffle ball. I'm going to patent my shadow coverage. We'll see who makes the most money.
2 outs, bottom of the ninth, World Series. I'm Mickey Mantle, and I'm at bat.
Well, Mickey alluded to it. The Cowboys had their virtual rookie minicamp last weekend. Everson, you're a guy who came into the league as a rookie and hit it off big right off the bat. What's the key for a rookie, especially in this environment where they aren't necessarily around the veterans, at least in a formal way right now? What's the key for a rookie to be able to make an impact, like, for instance, a C.D. Lamb or any of these draft picks this year, to make an immediate impact when they get on this team?
Well, one thing you have to do is impress them in the drills. You know, whether it's you're doing virtual drills, whether you're talking classroom work, things of that nature. If you're trying to learn the defense, if you catch on quickly, the coaches will notice that, and that's from a mental standpoint. And once you're out there physically, you've got to stand out in some way. I remember I stood out quickly. My first drill for the Dallas Cowboys in training camp in Thousand Oaks, California, I got cursed out by Gene Stallings. So yeah, that's one way to get on the coach's radar.
Imagine that, getting cursed out by Gene Stallings.
First drill, you understand? So I was going for it, guys. I was really, really going for it. And I think from there, whatever happens, if you don't get cut first day, which I almost did, then you have to make sure that they see what kind of progress you're making. So what I did, I set the bar really low by getting cursed out first day, and then from there I just improved and improved and improved. And then that's how you make it. That's how you make a difference in the coach's room, because you want to make sure that they're talking about you in one way or another, and hopefully it's for doing something good.
You know, you mentioned they were showing the films of C.D. Lamb. I don't know if you guys have caught this online, but I saw one of his high school punt returns. Oh, my goodness. This was a man amongst junior high boys, I guarantee you. He was weaving, spinning, cutting, turning. Unbelievable. And so, you know, we keep talking about him being a wide receiver in the slot. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm putting him back there to return punts.
Yeah, that's one thing. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, he returned punts at Oklahoma. And, you know, he doesn't really look like your prototype punt returner, but his run after catch ability as a receiver obviously is off the charts. And he flashed that a little bit as a punt returner as well. One of the things as a punt returner at OU where he really showed it to me, I think it was a game against Baylor, might have been TCU. He got lit up on a punt return where he should have been making a fair catch, but he didn't. And a guy just lit him up. He went into concussion protocol for about 2 plays, and he was back out on the field. He really showed how tough he is in that instance.
One thing about CD that I'm impressed with, and it's really confounding when you look at it, what you saw Spags in high school, Bill, what you were talking about in regards to his returns and how adept he was at big returns in college, he really doesn't look like he's going that fast, number one. He doesn't look like he can break the tackles that he breaks, number two. That to me is amazing, how many tackles that he slips. And I don't mean that he's shaking people down. I mean, he's making contact with them first, and he's breaking tackles. That's very impressive for a guy that really looks a bit slight in his build. And also what I like about him is I always think about from a track standpoint. You look at Michael Johnson, the famous sprinter for the United States from Skyline High School, and you see how he keeps his feet on the ground. He keeps his feet on the ground. There's no long strides. It doesn't take much energy. Everything looks effortless, and his feet stay on the ground. you might see his feet hit the ground 3 times within 5 yards. That rarely happens with most runners that have that kind of explosiveness that he has. So I think his ability to keep his feet on the ground helps his balance as he runs the ball. And it also gives him the ability to make the moves going from side to side. You know, when you go laterally, Spags, you know, some people can't do that as well. And I think his ability to keep his feet on the ground really gives him the opportunity to make the moves and also to pick up speed when he needs it. Everyone was confounded about how Michael Johnson was just so fast. It was the amount of steps that he took that provided his power. That's the way CeeDee Lamb is.
Well, if you watch these highlights we're showing right now, his ability to see the field, I think, is incredible. Like where the angles are, look at that. That's unbelievable. And when he turns the corner, it's almost like he's turning the corner like a defensive end coming off that tackle, trying to get to the quarterback, as he explodes when he turns. He doesn't lose any speed. Nope. And that's God-given right there. And it's just amazing.
It's the balance that he maintains while all of this is going on. He has complete balance, and it seems everyone else is just confounded on how he does it.
Hey, Bill, you mentioned the schedule. I was going to ask you guys, like, what was the one thing that stood out to you on the Cowboys schedule?
What do you think, Everson?
Oh, as far as I was concerned, that the last stretch, okay, the entire Thanksgiving, 3 games in so many days, and then even though you get that week off afterwards, I believe, it's still that divisional stretch. You've got the Eagles, you've got the Giants at the end of your season, and then you throw in the San Francisco 49ers while you're at it. Right. I think that stretch of the schedule is going to be very telling for the Cowboys, as it is every season. I mean, we're used to it by now.
Well, and the thing that stood out to me, and I was just looking at that this morning, was the late bye week, which is week 10 this year for the Cowboys, which is they get the bye week the week before that Sunday before they play back-to-back 2 games in 5 days Thanksgiving. It's November 15th is their bye week, and then they come back and it gets to that schedule, the part of the schedule that you're talking about, where they play at Minnesota the Sunday before Thanksgiving on the 22nd. Then they come home to play Washington on Thanksgiving Day. A week later on Thursday night at Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Then they're at Cincinnati, and that's where they get the mini bye after that Thursday game. And then that's on the 13th at Cincinnati. Then they close with San Francisco, Philly, and at the Giants. That's what stood out. And even before the bye week, they got Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. So the second half of the schedule, the second half of the season, I think is tough for this team.
It is tough.
Well, Bill, the thing that stood out to me was what you just said. And I cannot believe the NFL has done this for the 4th season in a row, making the Cowboys play 3 games in 12 days around Thanksgiving. You know, we talk about player safety. How safe is that? You usually play, 3 games in 21 days?
Yeah.
And now for the 4th year in a row, they got to play Sunday, Thursday, and then again on Thursday. And the key thing here also is the fact that Sunday game is almost always on the road. Now, at least this year, it's at Minnesota, and it's an afternoon game. So it's not a long flight back, right? You get back, 9, 10 o'clock at night, not too bad. You can get in some sort of practice on Monday. And you're only going to have a kind of a walkthrough type thing. Tuesday you practice, and Wednesday it's time to get ready for the game. But if you look at last year, when this happened again, and this was a 6-4 team, they had to go and play as far away as possible at New England, right? And it's a late afternoon game. It's cold. It's raining. It's windy. They lose 13-9. By the time the plane touched down, it was 1:30, 1:45 in the morning. So by the time anybody gets home, gets to bed, at the earliest, it's 3, probably 4. And then you've wasted Monday It's supposed to be your day off. It's not a day off. And you go out, and that second half of that Buffalo game, it just looked like they were tired. They had nothing left in the tank. And then, on top of that, the next Thursday, you got to go to Chicago and play, if I remember correctly, a night game. And so
that was a night game.
It was almost like the NFL punishes them for hosting the Thanksgiving Day game. And again, this was a 6-4 team, and they wiped out the season those 12 days because they lost all 3 games, and suddenly you go from 6-4 to 6-7. Now, I'm not saying these teams wouldn't have beat the Cowboys anyway, but still, why do they put them through that grueling gauntlet of games in a short period of time?
Well, the reason they're doing it is because now all teams have to play a Thursday game, and in order and so they feel like what they're doing is for the Cowboys to play that Thursday, that's not, and the Thanksgiving Day is not counted in that group. To play the Thursday night game, they put it back to back every year with their other Thursday game. In the case this year, and I think it was this way last year too, and maybe the previous years, Baltimore is also playing on Thanksgiving Day. They're playing at the Steelers on Thanksgiving night. So they're in the same boat with 3 games in 12 days themselves.
Interesting.
And so they're trying to even it out that way. But that's the reason they're doing it now, is because 4 years ago is when they started playing on every Thursday, where every team is playing on Thursday nights during the season now.
Well, the other aspect of the season that I was worried about was the first part of the season. The first 3 games, to me, are a little bit challenging. You're looking at going on the road, week 1. That's going to be tough, of course, playing against the Rams. Coming back, I worry about not necessarily these teams as much as I worry about the talent matchup. You bring someone like the Falcons in after you've been on the road for the first game. You're playing at home, yes, but the Falcons are an extremely talented team, especially offensively. I think that challenge is going to be big. And, of course, then follow that up with a game in Seattle, going against a well-coached, well-led team with Russell Wilson. Those first 3 games, I would not be surprised if they gave us some unexpected problems, guys. I really am worried about those 3 games.
Having said that, as we don't know, will there be fans in the stands or not, and so and it doesn't look like there will be, or there'll be a less number of fans in the stands. Can't predict the future. I don't know what Dr. Fauci would say about that. Now,
quit picking on Dr. Fauci.
Leave Doc alone, man.
One of the things about playing at Seattle, you take the fans out of the stands, and that's a different place to play.
Interesting, William. That's very interesting concept. No, what is it? No 12th man, right?
That's right. All right, I think we need to take a break. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with much more here on Mick Shots here in just a moment.
I'm Jay Novacek, former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, I was the guy who always got the tough yards, and that's why I run with John Deere today. In fact, I have a John Deere 3025E tractor that can handle any yard work I need to do, even the tough yards way out back. So if you have 1 acre or 1,000, John Deere has the equipment that's just right for you. Visit a John Deere dealer today and run with us. We are the official tractor provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Essilor is a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, helping fans see more and do more with our best vision solutions. Our lens technologies reveal a world more beautiful than you can imagine. For a limited time, get the Essilor Next Gen offer. When you buy the latest generation of Transitions lenses with select Essilor lenses, you can choose a second pair of clear lenses for free with qualifying frame purchases. Restrictions apply. Find a participating eye care professional by visiting EssilorUSA.com. Essilor. See more, do more.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter. $10, free shipping.
Your new apartment's big. Such a great deal.
It's okay.
Just okay? What's not to...
It's right above the subway.
Well, I bet you don't even notice it after the...
That's my neighbor, Angus.
A deal that's just okay is not okay. Get a great deal with America's Best Network. Come into an AT&T store to find out how to get one of our popular smartphones for $0 down. Based on GWS 1 score, September 2019.
Back to Mick Shots.
Mick Shots continues on a Thursday, May 14th. We're here each and every Thursday throughout the off season with the live show at 11 a.m. Central Time. And Bill Jones with Mickey Spagnola and Everson Walls. And you check out Mick Shots on DallasCowboys.com. He was breaking down the schedule a little bit this week, Mickey, and we were talking about it earlier, some of the things that stood out for us. How about the Cowboys' strength of schedule and what's being reported about that strength of schedule?
Yeah, and it's ranked 30th right now. It sounds like, whoa, piece of cake, right? And they do the strength of schedule off of last year's opponent's record, and the Cowboys' opponents ended up with a .459 winning percentage. So it was the lowest in the NFC. But when you start looking at it, and I understand how it goes. They play the same games with the exception of two as everybody else in the NFC East, including Philadelphia. They got to play the teams in the NFC West, the AFC North, and then you play the team in the other NFC divisions that you're not playing, so that finished in the same place you did. So Philadelphia has to play the first place teams, so they get New Orleans and Green Bay. The Cowboys get the second place teams, and they end up getting Minnesota and Atlanta. So there's the difference in the two schedules, but the Eagles' schedule is ranked 25th. As a matter of fact, all four teams in the NFC East are ranked between 25 and 30, and the reason because of that is because Washington and the Giants were so bad, and you get to play them twice. They totaled only 7 wins between them, and so that factors into the equation, and that's why the Cowboys' strength of schedule is so low, because they're still playing some pretty tough teams.
And then also, of course, with the NFC East, I mean, that's always going to bring the winning percentage down, because all teams were pretty average when it came to the final outcome of the season last year. But when you look at the AFC North, that division did not have their best year last year. Extremely competitive. Of course, Baltimore comes out with an amazing season. But there's no way you can just, put aside the strength of a Pittsburgh Steelers team, especially with Roethlisberger coming back. When you're going on the road playing these teams, some of them are just setup games that you could easily lose. Everyone brings out their best for the Dallas Cowboys. So when you look at this schedule, what is it? I think the combined record for the opponents is a 101 and 106. Taking the NFC East out of that, I think you look at the combined record of the opponents, and I think it really goes up a notch. So you're talking about your divisional rivals. That's what they are. They're rivals. As much as you might say, oh, we're going to go in and beat these guys, anytime you have a rival game, sometimes you can just throw the schedules out the window. So I think it's a little bit misleading when you just start talking about the opponent's strength of schedule.
Mickey, and one thing that I look at, and you wrote about it this week, is when the schedule comes out, I look at the quarterbacks that the Cowboys are going to be facing.
That's just amazing. And I started putting a list together, and I'm going, okay, you got Jared Goff, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz twice, by the way. Ben Roethlisberger is going to be back this year. Kirk Cousins, Lamar Jackson, Jimmy Garoppolo, and then throw in, you're going to get these top picks in the draft over the couple of years, along with Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Daniel Jones. Whatever Baker Mayfield is. So you got all these first-round quarterbacks that you're going to play also. So, don't go to sleep on that, having to take on those quarterbacks. And then probably a good thing that they loaded up on their cornerbacks in this draft and in the offseason.
Very misleading strength of schedule, guys. Very misleading, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And we never know from year to year. I mean, what's the old saying in the NFL? The more you lose, the closer you are to winning.
Right.
The more you win, the closer you are to losing. And, is like when Mickey cites the difference in the Cowboys schedule and the Eagles schedule, well, the Saints and Packers both 13-3. Who says Atlanta and Minnesota might duplicate that this year? You
That's
never
right.
know.
Especially
and
when
we didn't even mention the San Francisco 49ers as far as that schedule is concerned. You're talking about a team that's, come on, they're just a couple of plays away from being Super Bowl champions. So that kind of thing, it gives me pause, guys. And I'm really not comfortable with thinking, oh, well, thank God we didn't have a big season last year. That's why we have this weak strength of schedule. I'm not falling for that, not at all.
Well, let's put it this way. When we look at the quarterbacks, right? Tell me the worst quarterback they're going to play.
Probably Daniel Jones.
Yeah, and he's got
or
Jason Garrett to tutor him now.
or the way Baker Mayfield has played, or Haskins at Washington.
Yeah, I mean, and we're talking 16 games, and you just named, 2 guys. The rest of them, my goodness. And who knows what Daniel Jones is if he has a better supporting cast, if he has an offensive line.
You are that's not a put down that he's the worst one that I could think of, because all of these guys, including Haskins, they've got the ability to get hot on you, and at any time they may come in and have a great Dak Prescott year. I know Dak came in as his rookie year doing it, but some of these guys could come in and have that Dak Prescott year they could have in their second and third years, and that would be bad timing for the Cowboys.
Well, the good news for the Cowboys, Mickey and Everson, is that the Cowboys will have a quarterback playing for them this season who will be the highest paid quarterback in the history of the game.
Or at least he certainly wants to be, right?
Well, Bill's optimism is just thick, isn't it? It's thick as honey, man, I tell you.
Well, he'll be the highest paid one if he decides to sign a long-term contract.
That was just my way of transitioning to Dak.
I know. And if you think about it, what if he gets paid? I mean, right now the highest average is Russell Wilson, right? And if you look at his just kind of total average, if you count the 4-year extension, it's $35 million a year. But he had another year to go before the extension started for an $8 million base salary. So if you throw that into the equation and divide by 5, he's not even averaging $30 million a year. And if you look at the guaranteed money of his $140 million deal, the extension, the guarantee is $107. So divide that out by 4, and you get like $27 million a year. So is that what Dak wants? Because I'll tell you, the Cowboys are pretty close, I think, to matching that total he has. Now it comes down to how much signing bonus do you want? My guess is, and I guess it's easier to do it this way from a math standpoint, it's going to be $50 million. He could put $50 million in the bank tomorrow if he signs a long-term deal, and then you average that over 5 years. It's $10 million a year prorated on the signing bonus, and they could cut his salary cap total almost in half for this first year. So, to me, in this day and age, I mean, what if you don't play 17 games, and you're still on the franchise tag? Do you take a pay cut? Because I don't think they're going to pay you for games that you don't get paid, don't play, if you're making 1/17 a week. So to me, I would consider that, and especially now with the economy the way it is, boy, I'd hate to be going to June 1st and I don't have a payday coming.
Well, listen, Spags, here's what I see in you. I see you as the Dr. Fauci of this entire situation. Everyone's asking questions to Dr. Fauci about what are the real facts about what the heck is going on. Okay, give me the real facts on why this contract has not been signed. Is it because he won't accept it? Is it because it's not enough money? Is it because the Cowboys are dragging their feet? Come on, Dr. Spags, tell me what's going on.
I think they've made him an offer. See, here's the thing we don't know, Everson. We haven't heard from their side what they're asking for. You know, they could be asking for $45 million a year. We don't know that, right? And I'm exaggerating right now. But what do they want? And again, when we're talking about that big of a signing bonus, dividing it by 5 and dividing by 4 as you prorate the signing bonus is significant. And then here's another thing that it kind of occurred to me yesterday, and I was kind of reading a whole bunch of stuff. It's like, what if, and here we go with being Dr. Fauci, right? What if they're playing these games in front of an empty stadium the first, say, 4 weeks, and you're not bringing in revenue from ticket sales? Well, then your total revenue for the season's going to go down. So instead of the salary cap going up next year to absorb these contracts that are structured for the salary to go up, what if it goes down? What if it, instead of $210 million in 2021, it goes down to $170 million? All of a sudden, the way you structured contracts, there could be a lot of guys out there, having to take either a pay cut or getting released because their salaries, those base salaries, went up in a commensurate proportion to the salary cap going up, assuming. Well, what if it goes down? And so there's another factor the Cowboys have to, I think, at least at this point, factor into how the base salaries are structured going forward. So there's a lot of little nuances that, most people are, well, just pay them. Get it done. I had a tweet today. It's like, who else has to franchise their quarterback? Well, unfortunately, it was an easy answer because the Redskins did it twice. Right?
Yes, they did. I was going to answer that one, Spags. Thank you, Dr. Spags. I appreciate that.
But again, you don't know what the other side's asking for. And until you know that, it's hard to say, well, just pay them. It's not that easy.
It's interesting how this pandemic plays into the negotiations right now. Because as we go forward, obviously it's a critical stretch here over the next few weeks as far as baseball is concerned, getting their season started. As we go forward, it'll be the same for football. And that franchise tag deadline in mid-July is, of course, the critical time as far as Dak's contract is concerned. Where are we then? And from both sides, from Dak's side and from the Cowboys' perspective, does it behoove them to wait to then, or and factoring in everything that Dr. Fauci just said here on Mick Shots, how does that all affect things? It's very interesting how this is going to play out over the course of the next 6 weeks.
We're going to rename this show Dr. Mick.
Dr. Mick Shots. Now, as far as I'm concerned, by 2021, the beginning of 2021 season, I think we will all be settled into a new norm. I can't say if the NFL will start making drastic decisions based on one season's unusual loss, meaning having to go through this whole COVID thing in an unusual way. I think by 2021, things will be back to normal. You will have some players that are on the fringes, whether they're younger players who are straddling the fence right now and not really doing that well, or maybe a veteran who was really looking to make a move last year, meaning 2020, if I'm thinking about 2021. But 2020 made a good move, a big move last year, or didn't make a big enough move because of this whole thing. Now he's going to be on the chopping blocks before 2021 season. So I don't see it affecting the superstars as much, Spags, as it will affect more of the lesser-known players and the older players in the NFL.
Yeah, and my point is, though, that the salary cap's going to be factored on what the revenues from this season. So, what if some of these games, you don't play them? And I'm sure the TV networks will want a refund, right? They're not going to pay that top dollar and they got no games. The revenue is going to go down. And if the revenue goes down, then the salary cap goes down. And the revenue has never gone down since they started this salary cap, as far as I know. So it's always gone up. I think I read somewhere where it goes up 6%. So this year it's like 198, I believe, the cap for each team. And next year the projection was 209, 210, something like that. So, yeah, but what if it goes down? Then you don't have as much money to spread out, and you've got these base salaries that are already figured in. Because, like this year, if they sign Dak to a long-term deal, they don't have to give him a big base salary because he's going to get that signing bonus. So he'll make his money. But next year, the base salary is going to go up.
And forget about the forest. I'm just talking about the tree right here, okay? Not how it impacts the salary cap going forward or anything, but from Dak's standpoint right now, does he want to go ahead and get the guaranteed money now, meaning the signing bonus money right now, making sure he's getting money this year? Or if he plays on the franchise tag, we don't even know whether there's going to be a season or not. He doesn't even know if he's going to make any money this year.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, and if you just use, and I don't know if they're using the Russell Wilson as the kind of model, but of his $140 million, I think I said this, 107 of it had guarantees in it. So, gosh, if somebody was, I understand it's a different story, but getting guaranteed $107 million today, regardless of what takes place, oh my.
Well, the Cowboys are also looking at it the same way. If I'm a player, then of course I want to take advantage of the upfront money. But if I'm a team, then I know that you want to take advantage of the upfront money, so then I'm going to be coming from another standpoint. So it's still going to be a matter of how much they're going to favor their quarterback versus how much the season's going to be affected by Corona.
Yep, and from the team standpoint, maybe they want to wait and see where we are as far as the coronavirus on July 15th when that franchise tag deadline hits, and they wait until then to decide, to pull the trigger on it themselves. All right,
that's going to be another fly in the ointment, Bill. Another fly in the ointment.
Yep, that's right. All right, more with Dr. Fauci here on Mick Shots in just a moment.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys, and your favorite football team. Get yours today in the Stadium Pro Shop or at Stetson.com.
Your new apartment's big. Such a great deal.
It's okay.
Just okay? What's not to...
Right above the subway!
Well, I bet you don't even notice it after the...
That's my neighbor, Angus.
A deal that's just okay is not okay. Get a great deal with America's Best Network. Come into an AT&T store to find out how to get one of our popular smartphones for $0 down. Based on GWS 1 score, September 2019.
Essilor is a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, helping fans see more and do more with our best vision solutions. Our lens technologies reveal a world more beautiful than you can imagine. For a limited time, get the Essilor Next Gen offer. When you buy the latest generation of Transitions lenses with select Essilor lenses, you can choose a second pair of clear lenses for free with qualifying frame purchases. Restrictions apply. Find a participating eye care professional by visiting EssilorUSA.com. Essilor. See more, do more.
So, you're shopping, and that's when you see it. Aisle 23. Dr. Pepper stacked from top to bottom as far as the eye can see. The phrase too good to be true comes to mind, yet there it is. A rich, delicious Dr. Pepper paradise. Wait, did that can of Dr. Pepper just open itself for you? They all are. As if to say, so nice to treat you. And even though it feels weird to talk to a can, you pick one up and say, it's so nice to be treated. Dr. Pepper, so nice to treat you.
Back to Mick Shots.
Seven new picks in town. Well, if you go to Jack Black, there's a new pick in town, and it's called Pick 6 Free Deluxes. If you purchase $75, you get to pick 6 free of their deluxe products, and they've got a dozen of those products that you can choose from, all the way from, now get this one, Everson, new nighttime backup retinol alternative. It's going to keep your face looking a lot younger. Also, the Pure Clean Daily Facial Cleanser, all over wash, and everybody's favorite beard lube conditioning shave. Pick 6 of those, and you got to do it by next Tuesday by midnight on getjackblack.com.
Everson, I'm glad Mickey pointed you out as needing to have a younger face.
It sounded like when he said retinol, I thought he was talking about another part of the body. I wasn't sure what commercial.
Good I pronounced it properly, right?
Yes, thank God you did.
Well, as we talked about earlier in the show, the Cowboys had their virtual rookie minicamp last weekend. Mickey, on Mick Shots this week, he wrote about a rookie minicamp back in 2003, some 17 years ago, and there was a youngster in that camp that Mickey thought was fairly impressive. Mickey, would you like to relate that story to us?
Yeah, I was doing some research on after that 2003 draft, and the Cowboys had that rookie minicamp, and I ran across just a short, I guess, I don't know if we were calling them Mick Shots back then, but I ran across a little note I had on Jason Witten, and I thought it was interesting. They had just completed their non-pad practice. You're going up against a bunch of guys that probably didn't even get drafted or didn't play much the year before, and so here was my synopsis of what I thought of Jason Witten back then. Now it's only a non-pad workout, and really against the majority of guys who weren't even drafted or haven't played much, if any, in the NFL. But tight end Jason Witten sure showed an ability this weekend to get downfield, and he sure has some soft hands. And I'm thinking, I might have missed a calling. I got this scouting stuff down.
So that was Parcells? Was that Parcells as the head coach then?
That was Parcells' first year.
Wow.
And you know what else happened that week? I believe it was that minicamp week. Witten caught a pass over the middle and kind of a slant, kind of a down and in, and he kind of ran away from everybody. And very sarcastically, Parcells barked, and loud enough for everybody to hear it, by the way. He goes, "Yeah, there's my pass-catching tight end." Because he saw visions of Bavaro in Jason Witten that he could be a complete tight end, and boy, he stayed on him to turn him into one, too.
And that's perfect timing.
20-year-old Jason Witten back in. He just he would have turned 21 May 6th that year.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was perfect timing for Jason Witten. When you have a coach that's accustomed to a Mark Bavaro and accustomed to an offense that runs the ball and needs that not only pass-catching tight end, but you have to have that blocking tight end. Bavaro was the ultimate, and to me, I think, really the first tight end for the New York Giants that really carried that team in regards to every position, every part of the game. Bavaro was a threat. You didn't have that many tight ends that could do that kind of thing, or at least weren't utilized as well in that day and time. And now here comes Jason Witten at that particular time, having Parcells as his head coach, having that emphasis on getting him the ball and trusting his blocking. I think that could have just really led to him being noticed and being utilized in the perfect way.
All right, let me throw it out to both of you. All right, whether it's a rookie minicamp or just the first time you saw a player come into the league at a practice, or the first time you saw him, who was the number one guy that you said, wow, look at this guy, when you go back over time in an NFL rookie minicamp or first time you saw him in practice?
That's easy.
Anybody
for
come
me.
to mind?
Tony Dorsett.
Tony Dorsett.
Tony Dorsett.
Of course, you
came
weren't
in
there
as a
his
Heisman
rookie
Trophy
year, but
winner.
the first time you saw him, yeah.
The first when I remember seeing it on video. We were watching the news at that time. I was very young, and I remember I don't think I saw his feet hit the ground during the entire practice. That's when I knew he was going to be good.
I think I would have to go with Troy Aikman. When I saw him throw the football, how tight the spiral was, how accurate he was, and the velocity on the ball, it was one of those oh my moments. You know, you can see that stuff on TV, but it just doesn't translate to when you're standing kind of almost on the sideline watching one of those mini camps. And when he was throwing the ball, it was like, this is a thing of beauty. You know, you don't even have to mess with this guy's mechanics. So I think that's probably the one that at least first stuck out to me over all these years.
You know, one of them for me was, and this, I think it would have been training camp more so than a rookie mini camp, was Leon Lett. And it was more of a surprise. Then I went searching my roster going, who is this guy? Remember how fast off the snap he was?
Yes. And it wasn't just his quickness, Bill. It was the size that went along with that quickness. He was extremely polished for someone that came from such a small school. I don't know who taught him when he was in college, but when he came to the Cowboys, I wouldn't call him a finished product, but he was well ahead of being a rookie in regards to his talents.
You know, another guy that made an impression on me, and it wasn't so much just his talent, was his mental capacity to know what was going on. Patrick Crayton, I believe, 7th round draft choice, and in his first practice or second practice, he damaged his plantar fasciitis, and we know how painful that is. It's like somebody sticking nails in the bottom of your foot. And you could see he was limping, but he wouldn't take himself out. He just kept pushing through the drills, And I remember going up to him after the practice was over, and I said, "Did you hurt your ankle?" And he goes, "Nah, it's bottom of my foot. It's really painful." And I kind of knew what he was, it had to be his plantar fascia. And I said, "Well, are you going to hurt it worse?" And he goes, "Hey, I'm a 7th round draft pick. I'm from, what was it, Bill?
Northwestern Oklahoma State.
Yeah,
Oklahoma State.
Double directional and state, and probably NAIA at that time. I don't remember.
And Oklahoma.
He goes, "I've got Bill Parcells looking at me." He goes, "I can't take myself out. I got to push through this." And I said, "You know what? This kid's got something. He just might make it."
Yep, he had toughness and he had smarts, both.
Yeah.
And that's a great example of a guy who came out of nowhere and immediately, and had he not had the plantar fasciitis early on in his rookie season, I think it was halfway through, he was making a contribution by midseason his rookie year as a 7th round draft pick.
And he was so versatile. This is a guy that had played quarterback, he playing wide receiver. He was a do-everything guy up there. Hand him the ball, return kicks, and it proved out that he ended up being a very good, sound football player for a 7th round pick.
He really did, Bill. He really did, Spag. I gotta say, one more guy that I was impressed with, and it wasn't just his ability on the field. He was already doing well, but Michael Irvin, when he came in, I don't think, as much as he talks trash and as much as he's so, flamboyant in almost everything he does, Michael Irvin is one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. I have seen this guy just torture himself, especially coming into his second year after he had torn his ACL most of the season, his rookie year. I would come into the locker room and see him in the hot tub, and he was so sad from not being able to play. You could just see it. I would come and talk to him because he looked depressed. So you could just see his love for the game was there. Whatever he does nowadays, and I know it's all flamboyant, it's a little bit over the top, that is real coming from Michael Irvin. When Jimmy Johnson came, and that was his second year, when Jimmy Johnson came in 1989, he even stepped it up a notch in regards to his emotions and his dedication to being better. And initially, I must admit, I thought it was a little bit over the top myself. But as I looked at him progress throughout his entire career, all of that was real. And it was very impressive to me. His dedication, forget to himself, his dedication to the team was always prevalent. And I really enjoyed that about him.
You know, I remember Jimmy when he got there and he kind of looked at his wide receiver core and he started shaking his head, and we were starting to talk about the wide receivers, and he goes, man, he goes, I had more speed at Miami than I do on this professional team.
And you know, when you look at it, Michael Irvin wasn't that fast.
And I think
he was just
including
strong.
Michael in that. Yeah, because Michael wasn't a burner, right?
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
You know, along those lines, I remember, you know, back in those days, early 90s, the rules for the media at Valley Ranch were there were no rules, basically. I mean, in the off-season, I was working at Channel 5 during those days, and in the off-season, if it was a slow sports day, we just went and we hung out at the locker room at Valley Ranch, and we just waited for guys to come off the practice field. There wasn't any formalized workouts. These are just individual workouts, guys getting their off-season workouts in, and invariably, you'd see Michael Irvin and Troy Aikman coming off that field in March, April, whenever it was, and we'd interview them or whatever. But I got to see firsthand the work ethic they would put in on their own. It wasn't anything that the team was doing at that time. And I was thinking, throughout this coronavirus thing, the guys and the teams that are going to get ahead are the ones that are putting in the work right now. It's really the dedication and the sacrifice that those guys are putting in right now are going to play a big role going forward because they don't have any organized.
So Bill, did you remember Michael Irvin with the weight vest?
Yeah,
with the weight vest on, doing the standing broad jump for like 50 yards on the turf. You know, those kind of things that really stood out in my mind because. At that time, he was completely healthy, but he was not going to get hurt again, and you could tell he was working towards that. Very impressive.
I've got this other image of Michael Irvin after he tore his ACL, and he was starting his rehab that off season. And I was living in Carrollton at that time. Michael lived in Carrollton, and I'm driving down Trinity Mills. I can see this clear as day, and there was kind of a median. And I believe it was grassy, right? And I see this big guy on the tallest bicycle I've ever seen in my life, right? And he's riding right down the middle of the road. And it's Michael Irvin. He's riding to the ranch. And it was probably, I don't know, 10 miles or so, something like that. But that was part of his rehab. And it was just a spectacle. You've never seen anybody bigger on a bicycle in my entire life.
Unfortunately, that was before cell phones, and so you couldn't take your cell phone out and take a picture of it.
Hey, Bill, I'll tell you what, another guy that made an impression on me the first time I saw him, because I had no idea who he was Larry Allen. And he shows up, and I see this big, massive, wide guy running the way he was running, and I'm sitting there going, oh, my God, where did they find this guy? And I'll guarantee you those defensive linemen were probably sitting there going, oh no, I don't want any part of this. There was a lot of in the NFL those years he was playing. There was a lot of Larry Allen flu going around.
You know, you got to feel bad. You have to feel good about the fact, especially coming from a small school like myself. You know, the Cowboys have always been extremely good at going to find those diamonds in the rough. You're talking about the Patrick Crayton, myself. You're talking about Larry Allen. You know, these weren't guys that were on everyone's radar. These guys had to be found. And the Cowboys were always pretty good at finding them. So that tradition continues to this day.
Hey, I got an idea for next week's show. Okay, this week we talked about the guys that were oh my God, where'd they get this guy in a good way? Next week I want to hear your oh my God, where'd they find this guy in a bad way? How did they draft this guy?
I could get one of those guys right out of the way right now.
I got one.
I have one too, Bill. I have one also.
You can do it now if you want.
No, I'm saving mine.
I'll give you mine, and this will tease for next week. Okay. 1980,
we may have the same guy.
1986.
It better not be the same guy.
It was Kevin Brooks.
Oh, come on, Spags. Come on, man. You just took it away, man. That was it. See, I told you we should have waited till next week. Now I got to go
Now we
study.
got to come up with somebody else, because all I know is he was a defensive lineman. I believe it was Michigan State. And
no, University of Michigan.
Michigan, okay.
Yes.
When they drafted him, back then you had to call the guy and tell him, okay, we drafted you. There was no live TV, and they couldn't get a hold of him. And they found out he wasn't home. He was out roller skating. And I'm going, I don't want my defensive lineman roller skating, okay?
He was on skates his whole career, Spag.
There you go. And that's a good way to end this one. All right, you need to come up. Both of you need to come up with somebody else next week, and I'll have my guy too. All right, that does it for Mick Shots, and we'll talk at you again next week.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?